Locally, in this county, we have four stories of spirits, all decapitated, within less than a 10-mile radius from each other.
The tombstones quake.
Spooks come out for a swinging wake.
Happy haunts materialize and begin to vocalize. Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize.
When the moon climbs high on the dead oak tree, spooks awake for the midnight spree.
Creepy creeps with eerie eyes
Start to shriek and harmonize. Grim grinning ghosts come out to
socialize. Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize. When the crypt doors creak and the tombstones quake, grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize.
While the nature of the hauntings are similar, all are very different. The neighborhoods are different. Ancestries in Granttown include Irish, German, Polish, Scottish, and English, while Reevesville is comprised of people which include German, Irish, Welsh, Italian, and American ancestries, and Fairmont includes German, Irish, Italian, English, and American. The fourth community of Winfield, I could not find the ancestries listed, but I think it's safe to guess that the ancestral nationalities are pretty much along the lines of the others. The nature of the spirits seem to vary based on traditions of the person's nationality. Many of these cultures arrived at this country bringing along with them tales and beliefs from the homelands, and within many of these cultures was a well-established belief in decapitated specters roaming the darkness. And as you see in these stories, even they are told in a manner which are very similar, but very, very different. Granttown has one of the more benign of the spirits. This story in particular takes place in the Granttown mine.
Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. A muscle and blood and a skin and bones. You've got a mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You load of 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and a deeper in debt. Saying, Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store.
Say, Peter, don't you call me,
'Cause I can't go
say, Peter, don't you call me,
to the company store. Don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Come on.
It centers around old Eugene, who's been a miner most of his life. He started working in the mines at age 11 back in his birthplace of Wales. He liked to tell stories of his mining experiences, some of which were quite hard to believe. One story was about a big Russian whom, due to his size, they called Big John, and an accident that took place in the early years of the Granttown mine. Big John loved to work, and he loved to talk as he worked. Eugene worked with Big John all day. John planted the dynamite to blow the coal out, and Eugene worked the plunger to ignite it. One day, Big John was planting the dynamite in a vein of coal, and Eugene was around the corner fixing the plunger. All of a sudden, he heard an explosion and a terrible scream. He ran around the corner only to find Big John lying on the ground with his head blown completely off. A stick of dynamite had accidentally been ignited. It was a terrible shock to old Eugene, for he and John had become close friends while they worked together. It seemed as if he could hear John talking as if they were going down in the mine cage, and while they worked, even though he was gone. One foggy morning, about a month after the accident, Eugene was going down in the cage all by himself. All of a sudden, he felt like he was not alone. He slowly turned around. There before his eyes stood Big John, holding his head in his arms. The head smiled and spoke to Eugene just as it had done when it was still attached to his shoulders. Eugene shut his eyes and they remained closed until the cage hit bottom. When he opened them, Big John was gone. Old Eugene would claim John would visit him on the same day as the accident every month. For the rest of his life, old Eugene got a funny look in his eyes when the subject of Big John came up. They say every night after, when he would dream of that accident, he'd always wake up screaming.
Who's asleep amidst the trees? Bats all a swaying in the breeze. But one soul lies anxious, wide awake, fearing all manner of ghouls, hags, and wraiths. For your dolly Polly sleep has flown. Don't dare let her tremble alone, for the witch should heartless cold, paid in coin of gold. He comes, he'll go, leave naught behind but heartache and woe. Deep, deep woe.
Looking at the high number of Celtic, Welsh, and Irish ancestors in Reevesville, it's of little surprise that the town's headless specter rides a horse. One of the first historical mentions of the headless horseman can be traced all the way back to the Middle Ages. Among the most prominent is the Irish legend of the Dullahan, which is something of a Grim Reaper figure. In other words, he's fierce, terrifying, and out to harvest souls. The Dullahan, a dark fairy, is closely associated with the Celtic god Crom Cruach, the dark god of the burial mound. When Ireland stopped doing sacrifices for their dark god around the 6th century, the legend of a headless horseman trotted in as a substitute. The Dullahan holds his own grinning head, which sometimes glows, to see at a great distance. The gruesome rider gallops around on a black horse with a whip made of human spines. It is believed that if you look at the Dullahan, you will immediately be blinded. If you hear the dreadful fairy speak your name, then sorry, you've been chosen to be his next victim to die. He's a rather nocturnal ghoul. The Irish believe that the Dullahan hunts for lives on festival days after sunset. Not a door or lock can keep this horseman away, except if you put gold coins at his feet. The Dullahan is a popular fixture of Irish mythology and one of the most demonic depictions of a headless horseman. Now in Reevesville, the horseman has been seen on Route 19 where it crosses Farrows Creek north of town. Travelers and hunters who have been out at night have reported seeing a horrific sight, a headless man riding a dark horse with blood dripping down his body and onto the saddle. Usually seen on stormy nights, the horse and rider often appear on the road, causing motorists to brake quickly. The exact identity of the man is unknown. Some say he was murdered in a feud, others say he was a victim of a robbery. Still others say he was killed during the Joneses' Confederate raid in April of 1863. In an ironic twist, just across the river in the community of Winfield, a second headless horseman was reported. This one seemed confined to haunting the grounds of the property known as Shady Dell. The horseman is believed to be Julius Garesh, a native of Cuba and West Point graduate. Eerily, he did have a prophecy concerning his death. He was chief of staff with the rank of lieutenant colonel under General William Stark Rosecrans, which normally was not a position that saw battle. He was told that it was his fate to die in his first battle, and that's exactly what happened in a very gruesome manner. His head was shot off, yet his horse still rode back with his torso supporting a bloodied and squirting stump right in the saddle. The horseman would be seen riding a 24-acre trail along the property. This story seems to convey characteristics of the Scottish supernatural rider who was born in battle. Fairmont as well has a story of a headless brakeman that wanders the railroad tracks with a lantern at dusk looking for his missing head. In the early 1900s, a chain was hung over the Baltimore and Ohio tracks paralleling the Monongahela River in Fairmont. When it clanked above the cars, the sound alerted train engineers to slow as they were entering the depot. It was right around 1915 when a brakeman was riding the top of one car in the dim light of the evening. He turned distracted just as the chain crossed his path. The train was moving fast enough. The chain hit his shoulders, wrapped around his neck, and snapped his head from his body. Not long after the death of the train man, the chain was removed. However, there was something left behind. People walking the tracks would report seeing a shadowy figure carrying a lantern. As they got closer, they could clearly make out a man without a head before he walked off the track and vanished. Most believed it to be the ghost of the brakeman searching for his head. This spirit displays tendencies of the German version, which makes the Headless Horseman something of a cautionary tale. The Headless Horseman is a warning to the living to avoid his fate. Now, why all these decapitated hauntings within about a 10-mile radius, all with their own unique stories? Well, one thing appears to be sure. If you want to remain with your head intact, avoid Marion County.